Welcome to the Pro Ticker Deep Dive. So, quantum computing. It feels like it's been the next big thing for, well, forever, doesn't it? Always 10 years away.
Uh-huh. That's been the running joke, yeah.
But the material we're looking at today, it's pretty clear. 2025 seems to be this major turning point. The real question is this thing finally moving out of the lab and into the real world, into the market?
That's exactly what we need to figure out today.
Yeah.
Cut through the noise. How close are we to getting real, practical quantum advantage? And maybe more critically, what does that mean for businesses, for strategy, for where the money should go right now? Because the timeline, well, it looks like it's genuinely shifted.
Okay, before we get into the big picture stuff, the geopolitics, and these frankly kind of wild valuations, let's do the quick primer. Bits versus qubits. What's the fundamental difference we need to grasp?
Right. It really boils down to how much information they can handle. Classical computers, the ones we use every day, they run on bits. Simple, right? A bit is either a 0 or it's a 1, off or on.
Binary. Got it.
Exactly. And they calculate by, well, crunching through problems one step at a time, which works great for most things, but they hit a wall with really complex problems.
Like simulating molecules or massive optimization tasks.
Precisely. Problems with just vast numbers of possibilities.
Yeah.
They bog down because they have to check things sequentially. Now, quantum computers, they use qubits.
And qubits leverage quantum mechanics, right? That superposition thing.
That's the key. Superposition. Think of it like a coin spinning in the air. It's kind of heads and tails at the same time until it lands. A qubit can be 0 and 1 simultaneously.
Okay.
So instead of checking possibilities one by one, a quantum computer can explore a huge number of them in parallel. That's where you get these potentially exponential speedups we hear about. But, and this is important, only for specific kinds of problems.
Right. Not for checking email faster.
Definitely not for checking email. Think drug discovery, material science, certain financial modeling.
What's really striking, though, is how the sort of economic and geopolitical pressure cooker was building even before the big tech breakthroughs really solidified. What was driving that urgency?
Yeah, that's a great point. There were these massive macro forces already at play. First, you've got the AI boom. That whole explosion fundamentally shifted how people think about investing in compute power. Suddenly, pouring billions into cutting-edge computation wasn't just, speculative R&D. It felt almost mandatory for staying competitive.
Set a precedent, basically.
Totally. And second, maybe even more importantly, is the geopolitical competition. This isn't just about corporate advantage anymore.
Governments see this as strategically vital, for national security, economic leadership.
Absolutely. Whichever nation or bloc gets ahead in quantum could gain some serious long-term advantages, economics, intelligence, materials, you name it. And we see the money following that thinking. Look at China reports of a, $138 billion venture fund targeting quantum and other deep tech. That's not just academic curiosity, that's a strategic push. And there's a darker side driving urgency too. Post-quantum cryptography, or rather, the failure of current cryptography.
Ah, the idea that a powerful enough quantum computer could break today's encryption.
Exactly. The encryption protecting, well, almost everything. Global finance, government secrets, secure communications. If a quantum computer can crack RSA or ECC encryption, that's a huge problem.
So that creates a whole separate, immediate market need.
You got it. A massive, urgent market for developing and deploying new quantum-resistant algorithms and security infrastructure. It's happening right now.
Okay, so the pressure was immense. And then the science seems to have finally caught up, or at least taken a giant leap. This is where it gets really interesting, right? Error correction?
Yes. This was the bottleneck for decades. It was this frustrating paradox.
Yeah.
You need more qubits to do useful stuff, but the more qubits you link together, the more errors crept in from quantum noise. Your results became unreliable. People knew error correction was the theoretical answer, spreading the quantum information across many physical qubits to protect it. But for the longest time, the act of doing the correction actually introduced more noise. It seemed almost unsolvable.
A real catch-22, like trying to clean something with a dirtier cloth.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It made fault-tolerant quantum computing look like it was, decades away. Maybe.
Until late 2024, the Willow processor. What exactly did it demonstrate?
Willow was the turning point. It showed experimentally that as you scaled up the number of physical qubits in a grid, say, from a 3x3 arrangement to a 7x7, the error rate of the logical qubit you created actually went down. exponentially down.
So scaling up reduced the errors instead of increasing them.
Exactly. They finally crossed below that critical error threshold. It proved that the theoretical concept of fault tolerance could actually work in practice as you build bigger systems.
That sounds genuinely monumental. It breaks the paradox.
It really does. And the benchmark they ran hammered the point home. They did a standard task, random circuit sampling. Willow did it in under 5 minutes.
Okay. And a classical supercomputer.
Get ready for this number. It would take the most powerful classical supercomputers we have today an estimated 10 septillion years.
10 septillion. That's a 10 with 24 zeros.
24 zeros. Years. I mean, it's a number so large, it's basically meaningless, right? Way, way older than the universe.
Wow. Okay. That kind of quantum advantage demonstration, it feels like it fundamentally changes the conversation. It's not if anymore, it's when.
That's precisely the impact. For people in the field, and increasingly for strategists and investors, it credibly compressed the timeline for getting truly fault-tolerant, useful quantum computers. Instead of maybe 10, 20 years out, the credible estimate started shifting to more like 5, 10 years.
Which demands action now, not later.
Absolutely. If you're in pharma, finance materials, you can't afford to wait potentially 5 years to start figuring out your quantum strategy. The leading edge is moving.
So as the timeline compresses, we're seeing this ecosystem heat up, but it's not like there's just one way to build a qubit, right? There are competing approaches.
Correct. The market, or the hardware side at least, is quite fragmented. There are sort of 3 main camps right now. First, you have superconducting qubits. Think IBM, Google, they use these incredibly cold electronic circuits.
Rosencon.
They're fast. Gate operations happen in nanoseconds. Yeah. Like high-speed electronics, CON. Historically, they've been a bit more error-prone, lower fidelity, though they're improving rapidly.
Okay, approach number 2.
Trapped ions. IonQ is the big name here. They use lasers, really precise lasers, to hold and manipulate individual charged atoms, ions.
Then the trade-off there.
It's kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
Incredible fidelity, like 99.99% accuracy on operations between 2 qubits. Really stable. But they're slower. Gates take microseconds, not nanoseconds. So it's speed versus accuracy, broadly speaking.
Right. Speed or precision. And the third one?
Quantum annealing. This is D-Wave specialty. It's a different beast altogether. It's not really aiming for general-purpose quantum computing like the others. It's specifically designed to tackle optimization problems. Good for certain tasks, but not as versatile.
Interesting. So different horses for different courses, potentially. But the key thing tying it all together for users is this quantum as a service idea, right? You don't need to build one of these machines in your basement.
Exactly. QAS, quantum as a service, all the major players and a growing number of startups offer access to their quantum hardware via the cloud. This is huge for democratization.
Meaning pretty much any company or even university research groups can start experimenting, running algorithms, testing use cases.
Without needing billions in capital expenditure for the hardware itself. It lowers the barrier to entry dramatically. You just pay for the compute time you use.
And this access is crucial because, as you said, the potential applications are starting to look much less theoretical, much more near term. Where are we seeing the most immediate pull?
Pharma is a big one. Drug discovery and development. Apparently, something like 70% of molecular interactions are just too complex for even our best classical supercomputers to simulate accurately.
So quantum computers could model how potential drug candidates actually behave at a molecular level.
That's the promise. Imagine accurately simulating how a drug binds to a target protein. That could drastically shorten development cycles, potentially saving billions per drug.
Okay, that's huge. And then there's finance. Always looking for an edge.
Always. Optimization is the name of the game there. Risk management, portfolio allocation, fraud detection. These are incredibly complex optimization problems. The World Economic Forum put out a number. Something like quantum computing could unlock $2 trillion in value just in financial services by 2035.
$2 trillion, wow.
Yeah. And don't forget materials science. Designing new materials with specific properties. Think better catalysts, more efficient solar cells, and especially better batteries.
Like simulating complex battery chemistries that we can't model classically.
Exactly. Simulating something like lithium nickel oxide accurately could lead to breakthroughs in energy storage, which is obviously critical for electrification and, well, everything related to climate tech.
And underpinning all of this, there's that quantum security market we touched on earlier. That's not even waiting for fault-tolerant machines, is it?
Not at all. The threat is understood now. This whole harvest now, decrypt later idea is taken very seriously.
Explain that quickly.
It means adversaries could be recording encrypted data today, Government secrets, financial transactions, intellectual property, even though they can't break the encryption yet. They're hoarding it, betting that in 5 or 10 years, they'll have a quantum computer that can decrypt it.
Oof. Yeah, that's chilling.
It is, and it's why you see movement already.
Yeah.
Samsung putting quantum key distribution tech in phones. China Telecom talking about a global quantum secure network by 2027. The security transition is happening independently and immediately.
Okay. So we've got the science making huge strides, this geopolitical race heating up, real industries identifying tangible use cases, and this immediate security driver. It all sounds incredibly compelling. But then you look at the financials of the companies actually doing this, the publicly traded ones anyway. And, well, it gets complicated, right? Is this just massive hype and FOMO?
That's the multi-billion-dollar question, isn't it?
Uh,
And you're right to ask. There's a pretty stark disconnect between current fundamentals, revenue, profit, and the valuations these companies command.
Give us an example.
Okay, take D-Wave, the annealing company. In a recent period, they reported annual revenue around, say, $22 million, but their losses, over $280 million for the year.
Wow. Okay.
Or IonQ, a leader in the trapped ion space,
Yeah.
and generally seen as having higher revenue. They're showing strong growth, but their accumulated losses are approaching $500 million.
$500 million in losses, yet their stock valuations are, well, they're astronomical. IonQ was trading at a price-to-sales ratio over 300 at one point.
Yeah. Exactly, a
Yeah.
PS of 300. I mean, that's pricing in not just success, but absolutely dominant, world-changing success happening very, very quickly.
So the market is basically betting entirely on the future, on the promise, ignoring the current burn rate.
That's essentially it. It's treating these companies like, say, pre-revenue biotech firms with a potential blockbuster drug, or maybe early internet infrastructure plays. The belief, fueled by breakthroughs like Willow, is that massive revenue scale is coming, probably within that 5-10-year window, and today's valuations reflect that future potential.
Which explains the flood of VC money, too. They see the technical de-risking and are placing their bets.
Precisely. The nearly $3.8 billion in VC funding by September 2025 wasn't going into a stagnant field. It was reacting to perceived progress in that compressed timeline. And you see in company projections too, IonQ targeting close to 100% revenue growth for 2025, aiming for maybe $80–100 million. The trajectory is explosive even if the starting point is small relative to the valuation.
Okay, trajectory is key, but we have to balance the excitement. The path from Willow's, 105 physical qubits to the millions needed for true fault tolerance? That's not a done deal, is it? The science isn't completely solved?
No, absolutely not. That hardware scaling challenge is still immense. Willow proved the principle of scaling works for error correction, but actually engineering and manufacturing processors with hundreds of thousands or millions of interconnected, high-quality physical qubits, that's a whole different level of difficulty. It's a monumental engineering task.
And even with Willow's success, the overhead is still huge. You mentioned needing hundreds of physical qubits just for one stable, logical qubit.
That's right. The current error correction codes, while effective, are incredibly resource-intensive. You need massive redundancy. Building chips with that many physical qubits, all working perfectly, with the necessary connections and control, it pushes the boundaries of manufacturing technology. We're not there yet.
So a huge manufacturing and engineering mountain still to climb.
A very significant one, yes. That's why companies set targets like 100,000 physical qubits by the early 2030s. It reflects the scale of that challenge.
And then there's competition, not just between quantum approaches, but from better classical computing.
Definitely. Quantum-inspired algorithms. These are clever algorithms running on classical hardware GPUs, TPUs that mimic some quantum approaches to solve certain problems, particularly optimization.
So they could potentially steal some of that low-hanging fruit, the finance or logistics optimization problems.
It's a real possibility. If classical methods keep improving rapidly, they might provide good enough solutions for some applications, delaying the need for full quantum computers in those areas. It adds another layer of uncertainty to the commercialization timeline.
And all of this uncertainty, the technical hurdles, the competition, the valuation disconnect, it shows up in the market volatility.
Oh, absolutely. You mentioned D-Wave's stock rallying 341% year-to-date in 2025. That kind of move isn't based on quarterly earnings reports.
Yeah.
It's driven by news flow, by sentiment, by technical milestone announcements, and you often see very high retail investor involvement, huge trading volumes relative to the company fundamentals. It suggests the price discovery is still, well, pretty mature and highly sensitive to hype cycles.
Okay, so pulling this all together, we've got a genuinely transformative technology. It seems to have passed a really critical scientific hurdle with error correction breakthroughs in late 24, early 25 that has compressed the timeline.
Right.
But the path forward still involves massive engineering challenges, manufacturing leaps, and the current market valuations are pricing in a very, very optimistic scenario where all of that gets solved smoothly and quickly.
That sums it up well. Investors should probably expect a pretty messy road ahead. You'll likely see exciting technical steps forward, followed by periods of seeming delay or maybe commercial setbacks. It won't be a straight lineup.
So, the final takeaway, what's the core thesis here?
I think the core thesis is the quantum revolution is happening.
Hmm.
The physics seems increasingly validated. But timing, as always, is
Yep.
absolutely crucial. Meaning, for more conservative investors, maybe waiting for clearer signs of commercial traction, real scaled revenue, not just pilot projects, and perhaps more rational valuations might be the prudent path. Let some of the technical and market dust settle.
And for the more aggressive investors.
For those comfortable with high risk and volatility, well, selectively backing companies that are demonstrating genuine, repeatable technical progress and perhaps starting to show real enterprise adoption that could lead to those outsized venture-style returns. But it requires careful diligence and a strong stomach.
And maybe the biggest risk isn't even that the science fails completely, but maybe something else.
That's an interesting thought. Perhaps the biggest risk isn't a showstopper scientific failure, but maybe getting outmaneuvered geopolitically.
Oh.
Or seeing those quantum-inspired classical algorithms just get so good they capture many of the initial target markets before fault-tolerant quantum is truly ready at scale. The low-hanging fruit gets picked by someone else.
A fascinating landscape, constant change, huge potential, significant risk. See you all in the next Pro Ticker Deep Dive.